Sasuke dodged a kunai as he backflipped out of harm's way. Man, this body really has some benefits. He landed and scanned the area around him with his Sharingan. Where is he? And as if hearing him, Kakashi popped out for the ground, landing a strike to his stomach. He doubled over as Kakashi landed next to him and put his arm around Sasuke's shoulders. You know, you really need to try harder than that. I'm not like Naruto. Kakashi was busy gloating until he heard a slowly but steadily growing laugh from Sasuke. Did I hit him too hard? Might have knocked something loose. You okay there? But his student just turned his head with that pretty face hidden behind that long hair of his now. I wonder what Mrs. Mizuno is going to do when she sees all these bruises on me. Kakashi froze. No need for all of that. How about some onigiri? He knew he had hit the nail on the head when Sasuke begrudgingly stood up to his full height without staggering. All fine, I see, Kakashi said with a slight sneer. Yeah, old man. Just be sure to get me my onigiri or. Sasuke felt Kakashi's hand on his chest glowing green, trying to get rid of the evidence. He jumped back and Kakashi made sure to chase after him. He didn't tell Sasuke, but this soon became an impromptu lesson on dodging, with Kakashi doing his best to infuriate his student. They ran a few more laps before Kakashi trapped both of Sasuke's arms in a massive tactical hug, which only infuriated the Uchiha further as he tried to break free. This had been their schedule for a while. After the whole fiasco of Orochimaru and Sasuke had all but been forgotten about it as time passed on, and was now preparing for the Chunin exams. After having opted not to enter the first time earlier that year, the second one was coming fast, and the competition, as Kakashi put it, was fierce. Sasuke had seen the worry on Kakashi's face when he had handed him and the team their applications. Students had not been dying in the great numbers he said before, but the dangers were still high because of those that chose to blatantly ignore the rules or lost control. Much of that worry was shown by how Kakashi had suddenly started training him more harshly, but he always seemed sorry for it when they got home. They had been at this for months, but it was always nice when the strenuous training was interrupted by Miss Sasuke. Sasuke got a small smile on his face and quickly corrected himself into a blank expression. Hey, you four? What are you doing here? Miko was so happily overjoyed till she came closer and saw the bruises that littered Sasuke's otherwise porcelain face. The others bumped into her back when she abruptly stopped. Hey Miko, what's the big idea? Ishida said, standing back up. Ishida saw Miss Sasuke littered with bruises in the grasp of Kakashi, who they had momentarily forgotten was there. What did you do to Miss Sasuke? Asked Shido in a cold tone that seemed to pique everyone's attention. It's fine, Shido, she was just training, you know. Miko immediately tried to calm him down, but he was already charging at Kakashi, and not alone either, as Karen charged with him. But it wasn't Kakashi that went on the defense, as Sasuke just looked at them as he activated his Sharingan, causing them to run past him and Kakashi. Miss Sasuke, what happened to your eyes? Wait. Was that a Sharingan? Are you an Uchiha? Well, now Sasuke knew the cat was out of the bag. Yes, it was Ishida. Karen and Taka were all shocked, but Miko, the ever inquisitive about anything about her Miss Sasuke, I heard there was only one Uchiha left. Sasuke just shook his head. For some reason he had started hating lying to Miko. He felt that lying to her made her end up thinking of him the same way he thought of Ichi back when he used to lie to him sometimes. Those were simpler times. I am an Uchiha. That statement had come out more somber than he meant, but not for the reason people would think it would bring. Over the past few months, with Kakashi's help, he had learned more and more about his family, and with every chapter, he read, the deeper his resentment grew towards the past Uchiha. Kakashi had seen it in the way his face and attitude changed as he read more about what previous Uchihas had done. always in pursuit of power and prestige. He still felt that at some level, but he didn't know if that was a will of his own or his subconscious trying to honor his parents and those of the clan that had no part in such matters. I am an Uchiha. I don't know. Maybe I will be the last, Sasuke said, sparing a glance at Kakashi, who was now terrorizing Shido and Karen for attacking him. He was having his clone do it as he stood on the sidelines reading one of his novels. Maiko saw the look that Sasuke gave Kakashi. It was relaxed and she gave a small smile herself. I'm sure he wants that too, Miss Sasuke. The Uchiha glanced back. What is she talking about? But he shrugged it off as whatever it is seemed to put a big grin on her face and an almost star-like gleam in her eyes. Whatever. Sasuke glanced back at Kakashi and the question that had been looming in his head once again resurfaced. Do I even still want to be an Uchiha? He had been thinking of what would happen after he kills Ichi, and it all seemed to come back to the same answer. He wanted the Uchiha to die with him. His family carried so much blood that he knew even he could never wash himself off it as long as he carried the name. It seems such an easy answer, but at the same time went against all that he believed in, all that he had trained for and continues to pursue. I am not a coward, but there was the question, and with the more revelations he got, he saw the same paths playing out as they had for every Uchiha. The temptation between happiness and power, but with Ichi still alive the odds were not in his favor. He shook off his low demeanor, turning back to the look of concern on Maiko's face. It's okay, Maiko, he said with a small smile gracing his face, and the shock of an unprovoked smile was enough to deter her from asking any further questions. We can call it a wrap today, Sasuke. No use working you to the bone. Would only be getting worse results. Sasuke nodded, but Maiko was the one that was more excited. That means you're free, right, Miss Sasuke? He nodded back at her. Then let's go train, just the two of us. Sasuke's deadpan expression was not what she was expecting. I mean, I'll train mostly and you can watch and give me tips. That seemed to be the answer as Sasuke once again glanced back at Kakashi, receiving a nod as a go-ahead. Remember not to push yourself. Sasuke wanted to throw something at him because he had been literally pushing him to faint at times, but he now pretended to be nice when everyone was around. Kakashi could see the glare on Sasuke's face, but that didn't matter as much. He knew he could just buy some onigiri and he would be forgiven. Maiko grabbed Sasuke's hand before giving the others and thumbs up, jumping up into the trees with Sasuke in tow. Well, gentlemen, seems like it's just the four of us, the Genin heard Kakashi say as they turned back to him. A small sweat and nervous laughter passed around the ground as they saw Kakashi cracked his fist. Let's have some fun. Maiko was just so happy to be getting some alone time with Miss Sasuke. Ever since she had said that she was trying to enter the Chunin exams this year, Kakashi had basically taken all of her time as Miss Sasuke had been training a lot. She had been excited firstly, then she had heard from older Chunin around the village what went on during the test. Then her fear had spiked. She knew Miss Sasuke was strong enough to take the test, but that didn't stop the dreams of her making a mistake or her meeting someone better and losing. What's on your mind, Maiko? She shook off her stupor, turning back to Miss Sasuke as they continued jumping amongst the trees. Nothing. Just thinking, Sasuke replied with a hum and immediately stopped standing on a tree as Maiko proceeded to slow down. What's wrong, Miss Sasuke? The Uchiha didn't reply, just choosing to look at her with those eyes that seemed to stare through her. Maiko could begin to feel her walls as she let out a huff. I'm just worried, that's all, she said, sitting down in the tree, but her answer had only made Sasuke confused. What's there to be worried about, exactly? I know you will do well, I've seen how Kakashi trains you. But I heard from the other Chunin that these tests can get ugly. Sasuke nodded. That's why I told you to delay you for entering. So I can make sure everything is going well. Maiko let out a small chuckle. Kakashi said he didn't want you seeing if someone beat you. Sasuke let out a growl. He said what? Maiko saw the stern angry stare from Sasuke, but for some reason it just caused her to burst out laughing. There used to be a time she was scared of Miss Sasuke and that menacing look. But when Kakashi had told her about Sasuke's love of massages and that you could bribe her with onigiri for basically anything, that fear had waned. Sasuke continued glaring at her till he eventually gave up and just let out a huff with a small smile. I'll get him for that, but what did you want to show me? Maiko slowly got back from her laughing high, making sure to wipe a stray tear. Oh, that's easy. It's my new move. Sasuke nodded. So show me what you've learned. Maiko gave a thumbs up and then jumped to the floor of the forest into a small clearing. They were a ways away from where Kakashi and the other were training, so Maiko knew she could show off. Sasuke stood in front of her a small distance away and waited with his arms crossed. You see, Miss Sasuke, I saw Kakashi was trying to teach you about focusing your chakra in your arm and I want to copy it. Sasuke didn't know that Maiko had been watching him train with Kakashi among other things as a blush slowly spread across his face. Maiko nervously rubbed the back of her head as Sasuke pressed his finger against his nose. I'm going to pretend Kakashi didn't know. But the nervous look Maiko gave as she looked anywhere but at him was all that he needed to know. Start talking. Maiko let out a nervous laugh. Well, the first time I did it Kakashi saw me. But he just asked that I pay attention and not bring anyone else or tell anyone what I saw. Did you? No, I didn't, I promise, Miss Sasuke, she said, stuttering, bringing her hands together in a prayer motion. Now can I show you? I really wanted to show you what I did with what you told me. Sasuke just nodded. Do it. Maiko got into a stance, legs spread out, fist by her waist, and took a deep breath as she closed her eyes. Slowly but surely, small sparks started to flicker frantically around her, beginning as small sparks to large, more deadly looking bolts that flickered over her head to toe. She started scrunching her face as more violent bolts started appearing, and Sasuke just stood back in a wall. You see, Miss Sasuke, I took what you told me about focus. And she was struggling to say between grunts as she slowly opened her eyes. It still hurts. But it's getting easier all the time. Sasuke opened his Sharingan and was shocked at what he was looking at. Chakra seemed to be jumping in and out of her, looking frantic. He could understand why it hurt, but he knew for her to be doing it was beyond amazing, above what he could do. Sasuke nodded. You turn it off now. But she didn't, as she proceeded to take a shaky step forward towards him with some of the electric bolts burning the ground and foliage around her. Sasuke could tell she was straining herself, but he kept quiet. He wanted to see where she was going with it. But as she got closer, the more out of breath she felt, till the numerous bolts started to thin out more and more. Maiko fell to her knees and Sasuke wanted to rush to help her, but a stray bolt made him jump as he felt his left arm go limp and numb. He felt out a small grunt as Maiko tried her best to suppress her power. Just breath, Maiko. I'm right here, she nodded as she started taking deep calming breaths as the bolts only reduced to a low hum before they faded out. She deep another deep gulp as her eyes slowly focused back up to Sasuke, and she could see him clutching his arm with a scrunch on his face. Oh Kami, are you okay, Miss Sasuke? She shouted out as she got to her feet with a struggle, staggering towards him. I'm okay. That was really something, he said with a smile. Really proud of you on that. That brought Maiko to a standstill as she slowly caught up. You are? He just nodded before quickly being tackled down into a hug. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Sasuke was in slight pain but couldn't feel his arm anyway and just let the hug happen. So how did you get to that, Maiko? He asked as he lightly stroked her hair. Well, I saw what Kakashi was teaching you and I tried to get to it before you so I could show it to you. Sasuke could guess why that was. She wanted to impress me, he thought to himself before giving her a pinch to her ear. That was really stupid, Maiko. She quickly propped herself up on his chest. Oh, Miss Sasuke, why did you do that? She saw the smile on his face. I am proud of you, but that looked really dangerous and I'm guessing you didn't practice with everyone around? She looked away nervously and he knew he was right. They both slowly got up. Sasuke's arm still limp and numb. He gave her a head pat as she nervously looked up at him. I just want you to be safe, Maiko. That move looked dangerous and especially looks unstable right now. Maiko let out a huff. I know I will be, Miss Sasuke. Sensei? She said the words almost tentatively as if it would break everything they built. Sasuke's slow strokes of her hair stopped but his hand remained. Did she just call me Sensei? He asked himself. Maiko was nervous, chewing on her lips, swaying side to side. I knew I shouldn't have said that. Oh Kami, I am so dumb, she thought. Before she could further be a victim to her own thoughts, the slow strokes in her hair started again before he hesitantly looked up at Sasuke and was surprised at the small smile on his face but at the straight tear that streaked down his cheek. But between the both of them, he seemed more surprised as he slowly reached up to his cheek and felt it. He wanted to pull away but Maiko grabbed his still stunned arm, looking up at him tearfully. I wanted to call you that. For a long time, Sasuke was still stunned by the stray tear more than anything as he tried to list down any excuse as to why he had done it. We might not have been put in with the team yet, but you'll always be my sensei? And the other reason I agreed to delay trying for the Chunin exam was because when you pass then we can also graduate and you can become our sensei, Maiko said hopefully and waited. She didn't know what for, whether it was disappointment or happiness. But then she felt herself be swept into a one-armed hug and felt Miss Sasuke press her head into her hair before giving a soft sigh. She melted into the embrace and wrapped her arms around her waist. She wasn't as tall as Miss Sasuke. As her head pressed into her chest, she didn't think she would ever want to be. She sighed into the embrace. That would make me so happy, Maiko. I hope I get the chance to be your sensei. That only made Maiko tighten her grip around her. You already are. After a long embrace, they finally headed back to the village for a bite to eat. It took a while for Sasuke's arms to get the feeling back in it, which had made Maiko jump into rapid apologies before she had gotten a flick to her forehead. Quite trying to eat, she had quickly quieted after. Soon after, Kakashi and the rest of the boys joined them, with Jonin grabbing a seat next to Sasuke, earning himself some murmurs from the other boys that were quickly shut up by Maiko. So how did it go with you two? Kakashi asked with a smile as he reached over to Sasuke's food, making sure to avoid grabbing the onigiri. He knew Sasuke would be mad and he could always order more food, but he had learned the hard way not to grab his onigiri. He saw the look Maiko and Sasuke exchanged as the Uchiha gave a soft smile which had Maiko looking down. She was one surprise after another, but she's probably a stronger kunoichi than me, he said confidently. Kakashi slowed his movement and glanced at Maiko. Really, she impressed you that much? Sasuke just nodded. Yes, I got to experience it firsthand. Could only use my left arm a bit since you arrived, Miss Sasuke. But he held up his hand. You don't need to apologize, Maiko. I'm just really proud that my student has come so far, he said, giving a wink that had Maiko shifting around nervously. Why does she only get to be your student? What about me? I mean, "What about us?" Ishida said nervously. But he only received a deadpan stare from Maiko and Sasuke that had him groan. Karen however was more intrigued than jealous as he saw the look Kakashi was giving Maiko as if he was sizing her up. He wanted to know what she had done that had impressed Miss Sasuke so much because that meant he had a new goal to reach. Taihiro was just quietly observing everything going on, and before he knew it, Miss Sasuke had ordered for him what he always ordered here. "I really wish we could come to see you at the Chunin exams," Ishida said, playing with his food before receiving a smack to the back of the head. "What did Mrs. Misono say about playing with food? We don't waste food in this house." He said it as if it were a mantra, much to the amusement of everyone else. He guessed he could take it if it meant seeing Miss Sasuke smiling so much. In his mind that counted as a win. "You can come to see me if I make it through the test, because then I have to fight in the arena." The idea of her sensei fighting still left Maiko slightly nervous, but she shook it off. Her sensei believed in her, so she should do the same. "I can wait to see you, sensei," she said loud enough that everyone in the group heard as they slowly looked between the two. "Did you just call her sensei?" Taihiro asked, more surprised than anything as Maiko stood on her chair as if a podium. "Yes, I did, and she called me her student. Her best student." She added the last part more or less to see if she could rile the others up, and it worked a dream. "What do you mean, sensei? If anyone can call her sensei, it's me, because I said it first." "What do you mean you said it first?" "You whispered it after Shi left with Kakashi sensei," me says the one that looks at her like a love-struck samurai. Before they knew it, the once calm table had descended into chaos as everyone was starting to get ready to jump each other. Sasuke was shocked more than anything. Did they all really see him as their sensei? He could understand Maiko, who struck to him like glue whenever he was free. But the others, it surprised him. He could tell that Kakashi was not going to do anything based on how he kept quietly eating as the shouting match between the genin continued to rise, drawing attention from other patrons of the restaurant, and Maiko looked back apologetically and nervously because she had caused this knowingly. But what else could she say? She wanted to rub it into their faces that she was the first one to say it. "Quiet," Sasuke said in a small cold tone that made everyone freeze. He gave a strong stomp and he went to stand, making sure to step as hard as he could on Kakashi's foot, which made the jonin choke on some of his food as he started banging on his chest. "You're all my students, but right now you're not acting like it, and if you don't, when you graduate I won't be your sensei." That immediately made them all sit down as they nervously looked at her. So that's what she promised them, Kakashi thought as he finally swallowed the piece that almost ended him. But how is he going to do that? "I've been teaching you a lot over the past few months that I became your sensei long before I could be assigned to you," Sasuke said, and felt a pinch on his thigh. He could guess that was from Kakashi wanting some recognition for the work Sasuke had to coax out of him. "So no matter what happens I will always be your sensei, and I will always be here for you." He said the last of it almost as a bit of a choke. Many would think he was choking on emotion, but it was the words themselves. He felt the small rub on his back from Kakashi calming him further down as he opened his arms. "So why don't you come give your sensei a hug?" No one moved, as if they couldn't believe it or it was some sort of trap. It had to be. Miss Sasuke had been opening up, but it seemed very prominent as they got closer to the Chunin exams. In Maiko's mind, it was going off as if this was a warning alarm, and she feared something was going to happen, like her father and mother had told her they love her before they went on that fateful mission. Sasuke had closed his eyes waiting for the hug, but slowly opened them as no one had come yet. And, after a moment of hesitation and Sasuke now slowly lowering his arms, Maiko was the first to jump. soon followed by Karen and Takeru. Sasuke held them close but noticed one missing as his eyes met Ishida, who still seemed a bit hesitant until he gave him a disarming smile that caused him to come in rushing. "This is nice," Maiko said, buried deep in the hug. "It is, but that doesn't mean I forgot your punishment," Sasuke said as he went around petting each and every one of them. "Punishment?" Ishida nervously asked. "Of course. You ruined my quiet meal, so, of course, I have to punish you," he said with a wide smile. A moment ago it had been welcoming, but now it was threatening. The four tried to break the hug. "No. No. No, you're going to run 60 laps around the village for me, and then we are going to do all the katas I taught you." "But that's a week's worth of work," Takeru nervously muttered. "Is that complaining?" At that questioning his face immediately paled. "I can do it for you, sensei," Maiko said, nodding with enthusiasm. She was always the first one to step up whenever Sasuke offered a challenge. He knew it was mostly to impress him, and he always welcomed it because she kept pushing and pushing and he could see the potential that was there. And like a flint to knife, Karen immediately nodded. "Me too, sensei," he said it nervously. Sasuke gave him a small head pat and the toothy smile he gave and returned it for him. He sometimes wondered how he got such a personality twist, but he knew the reason why. But Kakashi was still in the dark. The dreams, or could he say visions, had begun to influence him. He had seen how he acted in those visions and now often dreams of his family, sometimes looking forward to finally sleeping so he could see his kids again. He would wake up smiling, sometimes scaring Kakashi before telling him that he was fine. In the months that had passed since he began having the visions and speaking with the Uchiha that haunted his dreams, the hate for his brother remained, but now he knew he would do this with his own strength. He would be strong enough to protect his family with his own strength. That drive and questioning that he had on whether to go with Orochimaru before had all but faded, replaced by the family he had and the one he was going to have. Ishida and Takeru nodded at each other. "Us too, sensei," they said in unison, making Sasuke smile. He gave a small nod to Kakashi, who had been watching the whole scene play out wistfully. With a few hand signs, another Kakashi popped up. "He will come back to you and walk you for home after you're done." Sasuke looked outside. They had been here a while and he could already see it was starting to get dark. He nodded at the shadow clone before patting each of the kids on the head as they left with the clone. He sat back down with Kakashi, and after a while, he could feel his eyes on him and he wanted to know why. "What's up?" He felt rather than saw him give a shrug. "Nothing." Sasuke kicked him under the table. "Why is it always violence with you?" The Uchiha just gave a shrug in reply with a small smile. Kakashi just gave a huff. "It's just you've been acting different." Sasuke just gave a hum. "Different how?" Happy. He understood where Kakashi was coming from. It had taken them a long time till he was openly hugging Kakashi or letting the Jonin hug him without a grumble. "I guess I just decided I should just try to hold back less," he said the statement while looking directly at Kakashi's eye. He knew what Sasuke meant. "I know, I'm happy for it, but you tend to overthink things," he said with a smile. Kakashi just nodded before he felt Sasuke interlock their fingers under the table. "I won't lie to you and say that there aren't things bothering me, but it's like I've realized that doesn't mean too much. And there's a lot more to enjoy." "Don't you prefer not knowing everything and staying in the dark sometimes?" His sensei laughed. His sensei, that was something he hadn't thought about in a while. "I swear you're becoming a better sensei than me." Sasuke lightly punched his arm. "Didn't I tell you I am a way better sensei?" They laughed for a bit before the mood quietened again. "You know Maiko sees you more than a sensei?" Sasuke looked at him oddly. "How does she see me?" The smile in Kakashi's eye almost had him nervous as family. That seemed to shock Sasuke. She got attached to you so fast that Mrs. Misono was asking if I should let you get that close to her. I'm one thing, Maiko is another." He could understand that she was very protective of her isle. "Make sure I don't." They finished eating before they headed back into the forest. Kakashi had said the house was off limits whilst training but wanted to stay close enough to the village because of the threat Orochimaru had posed. As the night came and the stars shone, Sasuke fell asleep in Kakashi's embrace. Sometimes it's better to stay in the dark and enjoy life. Morning came and quickly before the sun fully rose they were dead in training, pushing their hardest till the time came. "Okay Sasuke. We have been training a while and I think it's time for you to learn the lighting blade. At least a form of it." That shell shocked Sasuke for a moment as visions of him and Kakashi fighting flashed up in his mind. Him being pierced through his chest and dying in his. "Sasuke!" Kakashi shouted, shaking him out of his stupor, meeting his eyes before his eyes traveled to Sasuke's shaky hands. The Jonin didn't know what to think of it. Was it the move or was it because of what happened with Rin? Sasuke got himself under control after he noticed Kakashi seemingly losing himself. He knew that face and the train of thought that he was probably going through. "I'm fine Kashi," he said, grabbing his sensei's arm and lacing their fingers together. "Okay," he said, but Sasuke could already tell he had been unsettled. "Now let's focus." So they began hour upon hour, day after day of Sasuke directing chakra into his arm and manipulating it. Kakashi had called out to Maiko after he got bored reading his novel as she watched Sasuke, her sensei, learning to do the lighting blade. The lessons that her sensei was learning seemed to apply to her own move that she hadn't practiced since she had told her not to without people there to help her. She growled at Kakashi sensei reading one of his novels. She was a bit angry because her sensei was going to be fighting in a brutal test and she wanted her sensei safe. She was about to say something but was quickly interrupted by a shout. "Got it!" Both her and Kakashi turned to Sasuke, who was holding a frenzied bolt of electricity. Maiko heard Kakashi close his novel as he got up and moved towards Sasuke. He took out his Sharingan, making sure to assess everything going on, and he was more than impressed. The training to use the weaker version of his signature move had taken a lot of time, mostly because Sasuke had been adamant about not removing the henge. It had been causing a lot of disturbances in his chakra path and this would have been a lot easier, but Sasuke had pushed through and after a long time, he had done it. Sasuke just stood there mesmerized by the electric bolts running over his hand. The fear he felt far overcame the sense of accomplishment he had a moment earlier. Kakashi stepped forward. "Well done Sasuke," he said, and as the Uchiha looked at him, the Jonin's features were highlighted in an eerie blue light coming from the move. He quickly lost focus as it dissipated. "No. I wanted to see it too," Maiko screeched from across the training field at the two of them. "You will have time," Maiko Kakashi before he turned back to Sasuke. "So it's similar to my but has your own twist to it. I think it deserves its own name." Sasuke just looked at him before looking back down at his hand. I think I will call it